Hello there, this is part one where we are going to be rigging up the GMC off-the-grid water heater. Now remember, this idea is not for on the road. No, this is for a stationary off-the-grid location. Part one, we are not going to get to see the whole thing done. We are just going to go over the preparations, some of the ideas. We will also be tying in a solar idea. I will not be using a plastic 55-gallon drum like you see there. I only have it in the picture to show you that you could use a plastic 55-gallon drum. I'm just not going to use it. Obviously, you will not be using these old wire spools like I have. You will probably be using some sort of large metal support base. But again, I'm just coming up with the ideas right now. Remember, there's two ways of doing this. You can do a system that's pressurized, and you can do a gravity-fed system. The reason why I have those so high, the 55-gallon drum up high, is I'm going to be working on a gravity-fed system. So what is my goal for this project? My goal is simple: to set up a hot water system that works with no corporate power from the man. Okay, we're going to be preparing for the day that the power company goes down. You know, it happens. The power goes down sometime. That hose is going through here, inside. This hose here goes inside. Well, as you can see, since we're dealing with a stationary off-the-grid location, I'm going to be dealing with some big tanks. But you can do this on a smaller scale if you wanted to rig up something that would work for when you were on the road. You could have a smaller pressurized tank, and you could store it up on the top of your rig in your store more container on top of your rig. So you could rig this up, a smaller version, pressurized for on the road with, you'd have quick release connections. I'm not going to be using quick release connections. As you can see, I'm going to be using this radiator hose. Now this radiator hose is going to be about 7 foot long. It's going to go through the wheel well there. That's what I've been pointing at. This radiator hose is going to be connected inside. We're going to go inside, and I'm going to show you in a moment. That's going to be carrying the antifreeze from the radiator, and it's going to go into that tank there. That's a stainless steel tank. That copper you see hanging out, that's going to be my heating element. Now I'm going to show you what that looks like in a moment. I have it up on this base because I want to show you that I'm going to be working off of a gravity-fed system. I'm actually going to have like a outside shower. Now remember, the water that's going to be in this tank is going to be heated by the radiator system on the GMC Motorhome. Now, I guess you could do this with any motorhome if you were to tie into the cab heater. The cab heaters run off the radiator. But on the GMCs, what make the GMCs so perfect for this jerry rigging operation is the GMC has these radiator hoses already going back to the bathroom, which I'm going to show you in a moment. Again, we're going to have to get two 7-foot sections of that radiator hose. Two 7-foot sections. They're going to be coming outside, and they're going to be connected to the copper tubing, which I will show you in a moment. And on the bottom here, I'm going to have to rig up some sort of new plumbing on the bottom. That's where the shower is going to be located. If this tank was up high enough, I could also have the line going inside to the rigs, hooked up to the motorhome's plumbing inside, because the gravity fed would give it enough pressure to, but that's not sure I'm going to be able to get into that. Part two, I'm going to show you the whole final product in part two. I'm also going to be tying in a solar system. remember, we're dealing with two different systems here. That black tank there, I'm going to be using that for a solar heater. My idea is that the tank is metal, it's painted black. In the 110-degree desert heat, it'll heat up the water, which will go into a bigger tank, which you got here. You get this big water tote. And I hope I'm going kind of fast with this. I may be repeating myself, but a lot of people are not going to understand this. So if I repeat myself, bear with me. That's for the people who don't really have a good understanding of this, because it's not, even though it's simple, it's a simple concept. It's not easy to put it all together in your head. I'm going to try to show you that there's many different ways. Like this tank I'm looking at here, this water tote. I'm thinking about getting another one that's black. I could paint this water tote black, and by painting that black, or by getting a black one, that will also work as a solar shower. Of course, the metal tank on the top will transfer the heat easier. I just happen to have these black metal tanks laying around. I believe they'll be perfect for heating up the water by the sun power to sun. So there'll be days when there is no solar. The sun's not out. There'll be no solar power, and that's where this tank is going to come into play. This tank, the water will be heated by the radiator in the GMC rig. So I probably repeated myself too much. Let's get down to some of the nitty-gritty, and I'll show you some of the connections. This tank here is for the solar. This can work on gravity. You put this up higher than your tank. It's painted black. Let the hot water drip down into your tank. So you can work with more than one of these. I plan on putting about 2 or 3 of these in line, series parallel, and each one will drain into the tank. This will be the solar hot water. Now we're talking about the idea for the GMC. What we're really looking at here is a heating element. This is just a rigged up deal here. You're going to need something, a tank sort of like this, stainless steel tank. You can get these from old pools. This is a stainless steel. I don't really like the fiberglass. But you get yourself a nice big tank where you can, with a big enough hole, you could actually use even a plastic water tank. But I like stainless steel. Obviously we're going to clean this out real good. I just had it laying around waiting for the use. So anyhow, the idea is to copy the water heater that's inside the motorhome. It has a small heating element. We'll go in there and I'll show you. It's got a small heating element, which the water, all you're going to do is have yourself the antifreeze. When you do a connection like this, the copper hose might have to be bigger. The copper tubing might have to be bigger because you want it to fit in there very tight. You're going to use 2 of these. This is very sort of dangerous because you've got antifreeze coming from the radiator. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go inside and show you. But before we go inside, I'm going to show you my idea. This is going to the radiator. You got antifreeze in there. You got to make sure your connection is very good. Your copper tubing should fit very tight into your radiator hose. Put 2 clamps on there. As you can see, the copper tubing is all one piece, which is going to prevent leaks. Which the worst case scenario is you get a leak, your antifreeze goes into your water, and then you're going to be taking a shower with antifreeze. You have to be on the lookout for that. This can be a dangerous situation if not done correctly. So the tubing that's going to be in here, I want it to be very, very good, new, solid tubing. No connections. I want to make it bigger than this. Actually, I want to get a bigger tubing. So this is going to be the antifreeze. The hot antifreeze is coming from the radiator. It's going to be circulating through here, heating up your water for your shower. You follow me? This is going to be filled up with your water for the shower. A system like this can be pressurized, or you can work off of gravity. I sort of like the gravity fed ideal better, but I'm just going to show you the basics here. All you got is a heating element. It's going to heat up the water. The antifreeze is coming from the radiator, the GMC radiator. When the rig is running, the engine's running, the antifreeze is running through here, returning back to the radiator. Again, you're going to have another hose on here. This heating element, this is going to have to be sealed off really, really good here. You can seal this off with many different plastic cements, and you can use so many different sealers to seal this off. Obviously, this is not going in the rig. This is going to be on the outside. This is too big for the inside of the rig. One of my first ideas before going to the copper tubing, I was thinking, why not build a heating element out of something like this? You can see how you could rig this together, some sort of reoccurring geometrical pattern. This could even be your heating element. The problem with using this type of metal, rust. You don't want to get rust into your water. This is why you want to use copper or aluminum. This nipple here, if you want the right size for a radiator hose, this nipple fits in very good here. This is 3/8. Now let's go into the rig and I'll show you where I'm going to use these nipples at. They're going to come in handy inside. Okay, remember, after a job like this, don't start up your rig until you make sure the antifreeze has been refilled. Because when you cut this hoses that are coming from the radiator, you're going to lose some antifreeze. Have your bucket here ready. Have a little pan and just start pulling. Just put the antifreeze that starts pouring out. Just put it in your bucket. Okay, let me get the bucket out of the way and show you what my plan is. If you don't really know anything about plumbing and heating, that sort of stuff, you might want to get somebody to help you with this. Okay. As I said, I'm going to cut right here. This nipple is going to go in there. It's a 3/8 nipple. This is the nipple. This is okay to use these. It's not going to be submerged in water. The reason why these rust is when they're submerged in water. So this is going to be okay. Coupler nipple. I'm going to cut here. What it's going to look like is this. This is going to be connected. After I cut here, this is going to be connected. Folks, oh, that was great. Don't do that because that'll be hard to get down there. Okay, so you're going to cut both of these. This is going to be connected. We're going to put a hole right here. This is a hole. This is going to go through the hole. Again, this is where the hole is. I'm going to put a hole. This is fiberglass. This is the wheel well. You could come through here. You could just disconnect those rivets. You could disconnect those rivets there. Go through there. But I feel like this is going to be an easier spot. I'm going to cut a hole through here. These two lines, there's going to be two of these. Coming from the radiator, you've got coming in and returning. The intake and the return. Those two hoses like this, which are going to be extension, are going to go outside to our tank. Remember, what we're doing is eliminating this. This is your small heating element. If you look right there, this is your heating element. It's a really tiny one that works for a 6-gallon tank. That's what we're trying to copy. We're trying to copy this. This is your heating element that heats up the water in here when you're traveling down the road. This is an electrical hot water heater. But we've said before, when you're driving down the road, the radiator antifreeze comes in here and then returns to the radiator, heating up the water. So when you get to your destination, you've got a little bit of hot water. You got 6 gallons of hot water. We're going to try to rig this up where you've got more hot water. Only way this works is having a tank outside. I don't know if there's a big enough area in here to put a big tank inside. I'm not going to try it. We're going outside. So this is what I'm going to do. This is all. I'm not going to be able to. It's going to be a bigger job than I thought. It's probably going to take me 2 or 3 weeks before I'm done. But when I'm done, I'm going to show it to you. You see where my flashlight's pointing there at the wheel well? That's where my hole's going to be. That's where my new 7-foot radiator hoses are going to come through there. We got to buy those, the 7-foot sections. This is where the tubing. We're going to cut a hole right there. Bring the tubing out here. Run the tubing up here to our tanking system. You don't want to go through this compartment here where the propane is. You do not want to go through this compartment where the propane is. You want to keep that nice and sealed. This is the area you want to go through. If you can see right here, that's the overflow. The overflow for the water heater, the hot water heater inside, that's your overflow right there. We're going to go inside and take a look. I don't want to go through there because I could go through there. I could remove that and go through that hole, but I want to go right through here because it's easier. Putting a hole right in that corner, I think is the best way. Let's go inside and take a look. So we're back inside. You see that section there is the pressure overflow. If there's too much pressure builds up in the hot water heater, you've got an overflow. And that we were just looking at that. That's in the wheel well. You see? That's where if there was any burst of explosion of pressure, it would go into the wheel well. Again, we're going to cut a hole right there in the corner. That's where I'm going to cut the radiator hoses. I'm going to cut them back there. We've already been over that. Cut a hole right here. We're going to put we got to go buy 7-foot sections of new radiator hosing, which will take us outside. We're going to bypass, what we're trying to do is just bypass this old electric water heater. I'm going to leave it in there for historical purposes. Who knows? 20 years from now, maybe somebody wants to rebuild this hot water heater. So I'll leave this hot water heater in here for future generations who may want to rebuild it. It's going to look like this. This is what it's going to look like. As you can see, that hose is going to go through the hole. This part is going to go up towards your tank. Now, of course, you can times that by 2. I'm only showing you one of the radiator hoses. You'll have 2 radiator hoses. I might also have a cold water supply coming through there. From the cold water supply inside the rig, going up to the tank. You'll see that in part 2. Okay, how about a quick overview? Again, you're going to have a 7-foot section of this radiator hosing, which I believe is going to be about 3/8. And it's going to be connected to the copper tubing, which is going to be the heating element. I believe the copper tubing I'm going to use is going to be 1/2 inch. So if you got a 1/2 inch copper tubing, that copper tubing is going to be in a circle, coil in there. It'll be heating up the water, remember. This is your shower water. I'm going to use, I believe, 1/2 inch copper tubing. And that's going to be a good fit into a 3/8 a radiator hose. I'm going to use 2 clamps because remember, the most important part is you don't want any of your radiator antifreeze leaking into your clean water that's going to be for your shower. So that's it. If there's any questions, please leave a comment. Maybe you could help me out with this. This is the first time I'm doing this, so you're going to learn as I learn. Any mistakes I made, I'll try to bring them up in part 2. And again, if you have any ideas that could help me, leave a comment. And part 2, maybe 2, 3 weeks from now, hopefully, if I'm lucky. Thank you.